this is the map between 1948 and 1967. Again, to clarify, we spoke about this a few times. In 1948, Israel was established. You could say we won the war, but we did not have Jerusalem. We only had the western part of Jerusalem. The eastern part of Jerusalem, which had the Kotel, the old city of Jerusalem in it, we were not allowed to enter. The parts in red are what's considered the territories, okay? We have the Golan Heights, right? If this is the map. So we have, this part is the Golan Heights. This part right here is the West Bank. And this little part right here is the Gaza Strip, okay? So Israel was taking control of the land in Gaza. In 2005, we withdrew from the Gaza Strip, okay? And all the Jewish settlements that we had there were taken out. We can talk some other time about what happened with those people, all the Jewish people that lived there, and all the agriculture and the farming that they did there. And we are now, this is Jerusalem, right where my finger is, okay, the middle. And we just drove outside of Jerusalem into this area of this red. We are south of Jerusalem, okay? In the middle is Hebron, and then this is Beersheba, right? The cross is Beersheba. And we are right like outside Jerusalem. And this whole area of what we saw around us is called the area of Atzion. Gush is a chunk of a few different settlements together. And what happened was in 1948, we had people living here already, a little bit even before. We had people living in different settlements over here. And when the war broke through, it was very, very hard to fight all the Arabs that were living all around, also in the villages that we saw on the way. And there was a very, very, very severe battle that took place in this area. What happened was that they saw it's going to be very, very hard. So they decided to evacuate the women and the children. It was between the May 12th and 14th. Okay, right? Israel was established on May 14th, 1948. So like during those 2 days right before that time, there was a really, really, really crazy battle that was happening here. The Prime Minister at that time, David Ben-Gurion, said, you have to fight because you are protecting Jerusalem. If you, from the outside, if you give up, then they will just come up to Jerusalem and then Jerusalem is lost. We have to fight as if we have Jerusalem, and you are the ones that are blocking them away from coming to Jerusalem. And they decided to evacuate the women and the children, and they were only left here about a few hundred people, and they started like fighting the Arabs, and they didn't have so many weapons. And at some point, there was like a specific day that they were like fighting, and it was sunny outside, and then all of a sudden the Arabs just like turned home and went away, and they were like, what just happened? And it was like the Arabs, they just got hungry and they went home to eat. It wasn't like their army versus our army. They just got like, it was really sunny, it was really hot, and they just decided to turn around and go home. And then it was just like gathering of people, of Arabs from villages. It wasn't like a sturdy army. And then the next day, what happened was, it's a very, very sad story. What happened is that the people in Gush Etzion, it's a village of Etzion right across from here, and they saw that the situation is really bad, and their pistols and their ammunition is going down, and they went into the place, instead of attacking, started protecting themselves. They went inside, they closed the gate of the village. Of course, it didn't help. The Arabs came through, and they hid in their houses, and finally they had no other option. They surrendered. 151 people surrendered to the Arabs, the Jordanians. I'm holding this map to understand that this is the border with Jordan. Jordan were the ones, like the Arabs living in these villages, but controlled by the Jordanians right here. And they were fighting against them. And it's a bell from the school that is right here. And what happened is that they surrendered, and 151 people just came out, and the Jordanians stood them in one line, and they told them they want to take a picture of them to post. I mean, they didn't have an option. And a Jordanian soldier and the Arabs from these villages around just stood, and next to a photographer. The photographer just went along the line, took the picture, and the other one standing next to him just went with the gun and shot 151 people. It's just crazy to think about this. If this were to happen today, how the world would react. Not about Israel, like in any other place in the world, or God forbid if it would be the other way around. I can't even imagine how the world would react if we were Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, to do this to someone else. But of course, what happens to Jews, unfortunately, it's very different the way it's viewed. And it's just unbelievable that someone is already like with his hands up and they just shot 151 people. And we lost this area, this region of Atzion. And for days and days, their bodies were just lying here. And after we reached an agreement with Jordan, they let the chief rabbi of the army and more people come in and take all of these bodies. And they buried them in a thing called Kever Achim, a brother's grave, which is a big pit in the ground, and just buried all of them together. And they put all the names around. It's in the military cemetery, Mount Herzl in Jerusalem. You probably visit there when you were on your birthright groups. And for 19 years, the situation was that all of these kids that were evacuated with their mothers, there's a whole generation living in Kfar Atzion today that have no father, that are orphans from a father because their father was killed. And for 19 years, this place was deserted. There was nothing here. No one was allowed here. And this oak is the symbol of the chunk of Atzion, this area. This is the only thing that stayed. They took over everything that we had here. And this oak stayed here. And today there's like all these trees and everything around. But the parents, the mothers, and the kids used to stand at a certain part, at the most southern part of Jerusalem, looking towards Gush Atzion, the area of Atzion, and telling their kids, you see, that's where your father died. That's where it happened, and we'll be back. This is the lone oak tree, and it's the symbol of Gush Atzion. The people didn't give up, and they knew that we'll be back someday. One day we'll be back in this area, and thank God, in 1967 we won the war, and we came back here, and we established all of these new settlements. We were driving through this area also yesterday. I was telling you how a lot of these settlements, the first spoken language is actually English. And a lot of Americans and Canadians and British people all live in this area. And thank God we're back home. But this is, the idea of the chain of generations.